Yo, this is Allu. You got pretty big balls to watch Thorin's YouTube videos.
Right, this is going to be another one of my Reflections interviews, and this one is going to be with Allu, who is obviously a veteran Finnish CSGO player. Technically, it still says on his Twitter bio, he's with ENCE, but no one really knows yet. Maybe we'll find out at the end of the interview what the status there is, if he'll ever play CSGO again. Allu, right, in this interview, I know most people who are fans in CSGO, I always think of it like they probably only came in like 2 or 3 years ago, you know, so they definitely don't know much of the history. So people might not even know, actually, that even though in CSGO it's where you built your fame and you did a lot of your big accomplishments, you were around towards the end of CS 1.6, and especially you finally kind of got to the international tournaments, basically when it was almost over. Like, I remember you joined the team with Lurpus and Nasu when we didn't know it at the time, but that was basically the last year of CS 1.6, and in fact, it didn't even last the whole year. You know, CSGO was out like, I think like 3/4 of the way through the year. So what I want to know was this. I know back in the day, the Finnish scene was actually very hard to break into the top teams. Like, it was super like political. Do you know the players? Do they like you? I also got the feeling back then, whereas in like the Swedish scene, they were doing a really good job of like talent scouting. Like, if someone was really good in like the semi-pro scene, they would try to get talent into their top teams and try to like see if this guy's good. In the Finnish scene, I also got the feeling that you almost like had to actually beat the team above you to get into that team. So you had to upset them at a qualifier or something. What was it like back then? Like, for example, were you good enough that you could have been in the top years earlier? Was it tough to break through?
Oh man, like that's like we are going way back right now.
Sure.
But yeah, yeah, it was tough. Kind of, there was some sort of like, as you said, you kind of needed to know people and maybe play with them, mix with them, you know, show them that you are a good guy. Also, like in terms of like being a good player, also. But yeah, I was actually, like, it was 2012, like early January, I think I joined WinFact with Lurpis, Basic, Aslak, and HN.
Yes.
Nesu didn't actually play there.
All right.
Yeah, and like, it was really nice. Like, I worked really hard to get to that point. Like, it was actually like, if we go like even way back, even more back than that, like in 1.6 I always played like, how to say, like, it was more like I played for like 2 or 3 months real hardcore, then I was off for a little bit, you know. It wasn't really like
okay, you weren't going hard the whole time.
Yeah, no, like, it was more like a hobby, you could say. But in like 2011, like, we were in a local LAN, like LAN Trek or whatever.
Yeah, makes sense.
It was, yeah, like with my team at that time. And we lost to, in the grand final, we lost to Basic and his like mixed team. And at that point I was like, yeah, I don't know if there's really a lot of sense to play like this, you know, like 50-50 kind of. That if I really wanted to play CS and go pro, as you say, like, I really need to go all in. And then I like thought about it for a bit, and then I started to, like, you know, really play and put a lot of effort during 2011. And then like my goal was to get to the best Finnish team, which was WinFact at the time. And then like fortunately they gave me a shot. But it was like, then like, what kind of for me, like, it's kind of bummer is that, like, because the time that I played in WinFact and like when CS 1.6 kind of died, right? It was like during the 2012 summer. So it was really a short time span that I get to play the big tournaments and all that. And that's something I really like miss, or like I would have hoped it happened sooner.
Sure. There was actually one tournament from 1.6 I wanted to ask about because it was just a really crazy result. And no one's going to remember this, which is when you went to the Copenhagen Games tournament not long after that. And what was weird about this was the tournament where Lurpis couldn't play for some reason. I can't remember if he had school or something. And you had to take Dream as a stand-in. And obviously Lurpis was the in-game leader. You know, and if people know he was a real in-game leader, he called strats, he tried to read the game.
Yeah,
so in theory, you should do terrible at this tournament. But actually, it was like a miracle tournament. You almost made the final. You beat Navi and SK in best of 3. Oh,
yeah,
third, I think.
Yeah, we placed third, and then we lost the consolidation final or whatever.
Yes.
To Navi, I think, like 2-1 in a
How did
really
that
tight
happen?
game.
Was it a miracle run for you?
Yeah, for sure. Like even when like with the team, like if I'm not sure how much I remember, like or how correct my memory is, but I think like we like even before that, like we had some decent results in the sense that like we played the IEM World Championship in Hanover.
Sure.
And there in our group, we had a really tough group, and we won 2 games, and we drew 2 games, and then we lost only 1 game, and we went out.
I think it's because you did the tie, right? It's like if you'd have won one more round or something, you'd be like
something like that. And I think like I think that team really like we had a lot of potential. Like we unfortunately we kind of never got to show it, like because of CS 1.6 just like going down.
Right, obviously in CSGO, even though people are going to think when, you know, teams like NiP and Very Games started off, it sounds like it's a professional scene like it is now, but I always tell people it was more like there was like a handful of teams that were trying to play pro, and then everyone else was either like a source player or a 1.6 player, and they were just sort of like, can I even get a team? Like, I'll try it out. No one was sure. And I saw in the early days, you were playing with some of the other people like Natu was back again. And then for the first, basically, like, I mean, over a year, you were just in like a bunch of these different teams, and it seemed like Finnish CS at the time, like, maybe, was it not as serious as a 1.6? Were you actually trying to go hard in CSGO? Did you think CSGO would be a big game? What was it like in the first years?
Wait a bit, I have to see, like, for myself also. I have to check something.
It's all right.
But like after like 1.6 kind of went down, this is like, for me it was like there was still tournaments in during the summer and closer to the fall, if I remember correctly. But like our team kind of died because like then Lurpis didn't want to play anymore, and whatever, you know. So then I basically quit playing CS, and then I enjoyed the summer, and then like CSGO came out, right, and then during like the early fall of 2012, I was like, it felt like something is missing in my life, you know. Something is missing, and then like 1.6 was dead, and I'm like, okay, there's this game called CSGO, right? And I'm just like, yeah, I'll try it out. Let's see how it is. And I started to play it, and then like I played in this, like there was a like AWPer, you know it, like this chatting platform.
No, I'm not sure what that's called. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there was a gather. Like.
Oh, you mean IRC?
Yeah, IRC.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay. Right.
yeah.
I get you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like there was a Finnish gather there, like where was like some X 1.6 players and source players. It was called Game Base or whatever,
okay.
I think. And I started to play there. Then I played there for a week or two, and I started to enjoy the game. And then I was like, yeah, I really want to play in a team, right? And then I just wrote to the channel that like here is one player that needs a team, and then like the first guy who came to me, I just said, yeah, I'll join your team, right? And like I only knew like one guy before that, and others were like someone like maybe from Source or whatever. And then I played there for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then I saw that Natu and H-Han was playing a lot of like the gathers also, and then I messaged Natu that maybe we should make a serious team. And then he was like, yeah, okay, let's go. And then we like kind of scrambled a little bit, and then we made a team which was called Hawks, I think.
Yes.
And yeah, then we played. I think we did pretty good. Like we had one decent result in like Thor Open 2012, where we placed second. We lost to NiP.
Understandably.
Yeah, like they were like unbeatable at the time, right? Like
yes.
Back then when they had the crazy 87-0 record on LAN. But anyway, it was a decent result for us. But then like Nesu decided to quit because like I guess he didn't really enjoy the game that much, and like also back then, like the money wasn't really there, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So you really had to have the passion to play, just to play and compete rather than like to get the paycheck. And he quit. Then I think we added Karon. I think it's called in English like KHRN, and then we played with that team for a bit. It didn't really it started to go downhill. Like we didn't really know how to because Neisu was even though he wasn't this greatest individual player, but he played a really pivotal part in our team as a role. Like he was always willing to do whatever is necessary to win the round. And a jump for you, whatever, his comms was good. He wasn't afraid. And then we kind of lost a lot of that when Neisu decided to quit. And I think if we could have continued with that Hawks or Curse lineup, whatever we had, I think we could have stayed up in the early days of CSGO for quite a bit.
Sure. One player I noticed, by the way, when I went back and looked, because obviously if people don't know, the weird thing about ENCE is, ENCE, the organisation that has sponsors and a big thing, yeah, that only came around years later. But there was a team called ENCE at one point in time, and it was around and you were in it, but it was a different squad. But I noticed when you look back at the old rosters, actually in one of the reasonably early ones, actually, Sonny's in the team. And you'll play with Sonny, but people only know him from years later.
Yeah, I think the first ENCE, first ENCE was Shaker, Sunny, who else?
Was Nato in that one?
No, I don't think so. It was, maybe I can find it. Fuck it. But it was Sunny, Shaker, MK, ZZ, and two others. I can't remember them.
Sure.
But it was the first ENCE team, I think. Maybe whatever. But then we joined ENCE after that with Neitu, and then who else played there? We just switched players all the time, everybody switched back and forth. But Finnish scene was kind of in how to say transition, or there was also when guys I don't know if you remember or if anyone else remembers, but guys like Reflex and Disturbed, obviously, and so on. They were playing kind of in different teams than me and the other the good Finnish players kind of, and we somehow didn't make a team that had all the best players, in one
team. You were battling each other.
Yeah, and times were rough back then, for Finns at least. The whole scene was in shambles, I think. We didn't really have that, in 1.6, the community, even though it was hard to break through per se, but we had, the community was kind of tight, we used to play a lot of clan base. I don't know if you're familiar with clan base. Yeah, laddering there, and then we had these gathers where all the good or semi-good players played, and then you kind of knew everyone, and everybody but then in CSGO it kind of fell apart. It started to be that people are how to say, people are not in this one circle, but they are in many small circles.
Yeah, it's all fragmented out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
What would you say to that angle, though? Because, I say, most people only really, if you use the term, when they appear on your radar, most people only knew Sonny in 2017. It was obviously when he was in the Penta team, and then later he went to Mouse Sports, etc. This is years and years before that. Were you actually friends with Sonny? Did you know him much? Was he actually, could you tell he was a good player back then?
I knew Sonny from, the end of 1.6, not in I didn't know him per se as a person, but I knew about him. And then in CSGO, we noticed him quite fast. He was like he's a definition of like a grinder, you know.
Right.
Like he had these crazy hours all the time, like 120 hours per 2 weeks, all the time. And like I was like, if this guy keeps this up, he has to be good, you know.
Sure.
Or like
yeah.
he has to become good. And yeah, so that's how like we paid attention to him.
Are you a guy that grinded the game much?
Me?
Yeah.
Depends. Like I usually have these like periods, right? That I grind a lot, then I grind a little bit less. But it is one thing that kind of which like we get to, like when we go through, we get to the later point where I kind of realize that this is a job, you know.
Right.
And it happened for me. It happened quite late, actually. The understanding of like being professional or treating CSGO as a job and as a like serious business, you know.
Sure.
Which is like one thing I regret a bit, to be honest.
As in, like, you know, you wonder what could have happened to your career if you'd have had like this mentality of Sonny's.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, what happened, right? And like, nevertheless, I've done good for myself, you know.
Sure.
But, like, you know, you're still like, of course, sometimes you figure like or think about like what could have been, but I'm not really that kind of guy who likes to dwell a lot. Like,
right.
Maybe if that happened or didn't, you know. But
yeah.
Like obviously, like just like the like kind of the attitude that I have now and the like kind of the knowledge and the experience and whatever. Like I would have hoped that I had the similar view on things like a bit sooner. But
sure.
But it's all good.
Like, you obviously seemed like, because we're on this topic, like you always seemed to me as a player like someone who's very confident. Like I'll give people an example that might surprise them. When you were in an NiP, and obviously that was a very good team, right? At the time, if you remember, it was when Kenny S was like the best player in the world, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And all at the time, he was like what people at Simple is now. Everyone was just going crazy, and you were telling me like, he is not the best AWPer. You were like, if you watch when I play him, I always get more kills on him. And I was like, well, all right, whatever. That's a weird team. Okay. Were you really like that? Did you really believe you were the best when you were playing?
No, I don't really necessarily think I'm the best or whatever, but I just think like you know, whoever I play is equal, you know. Like that is like just a mindset. Like obviously Kenny was like insane back then, but you can't really go into that. Like you can obviously like respect his skills and acknowledge that he is really good, but you can't really go into the match or whatever to say that or to think that like, oh my god, this guy is, you know, really good. Like at least that's how I think.
Sure.
Right.
Right, what I want to ask about, because obviously we don't go through all the teams, there's a million teams you've been in. I want to talk about the NiP period, because what's crazy about this was, right, this almost seemed like when a meme becomes real, because if people don't remember, famously, when NiP had Fiflaren, the number one, like, Fiflaren hater was Lurpus, of course, because he's just like, it's not even that he really hated Fiflaren, people don't get it, he's just a guy who's like, he just says it exactly as he thinks, and he doesn't ever, like, hold back for, like, you know, politeness or whatever, so he'll just literally do a tweet like, yeah, I think this player sucks even if they're winning. So basically, then obviously they had the period when they had Makalele, right? And I remember Lurpus saying something on Twitter like, they should just get allu. And at the time, that was a ridiculous suggestion, because if people don't know, Swedes always only play with Swedes. They always want to speak Swedish. And there's no way they would recruit a Finnish player. So I almost thought, like, this is a fucking meme. There's no way. And then it happened. Like, they just recruited you before the major. What? Did that really come out of nowhere? I know at the time Nati was the coach. How did this move happen, dude? This is one of the weirdest moves ever for Swedish CS.
Man, it's crazy. Like, we used to, like, even in, like, back in, like, 2013 and whatever, when we played the Finnish teams, and, like, we used to talk with my teammates that, you know, you should play in NiP. Like, people were, like, saying to me that, like, yeah, like, you should go there, man. This team would be sick if you played there. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what is Swedish, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, like, it really didn't really happen, like, out of the blue. Like, I think it was, like, I remember in like at least in 2 different events, like Get Right came to me in an after party or whatever, and asked me if I spoke Swedish, you know, and just like like kind of got in touch with me somehow. So I always thought like, or I had this feeling in my head kind of that okay, like there is like no chance that this guy asks me about this stuff unless he or they are interested in playing with me, right?
Right.
And then like, well, yeah, we are now in 2015, yeah. So I played in Mouse Sports before that. Then Mouse Sports wanted to go full German. Then we made the 3D Max team, which was the first team to qualify for the major from Finland, which was pretty nice.
Sure.
And then, like, after that, like, NiP got in touch with me. I don't know really, like, obviously I had some, like, pretty good results back then, like, statistics-wise, and I was in a pretty good place, like, in-game skill-wise, I would say. But obviously it was a bit surprising still. Like, it was like, I don't remember if, like, was it Friberg who wrote to me in Steam, like, yo man, you want to come to TS? Or something like this. Okay. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, let's go. What up? And then it's like, yeah, like, I think, like, we need a player. Like, do you want to come and stand in these online games or whatever? Like, I think we had, like, before the major, we played I played with, like, some online games with this.
Yeah, I remember it was a tournament called like King of Majors, where it was all the teams that had like been first, like top
something. I can't really recall. And then like I played there, and then they were like, after that, like I guess they were impressed what they saw, and then like they were like, hey, you want to play the major with us? I'm like, okay, let's go.
Sure.
And yeah, like it happened pretty fast. Then like, after like 1 week, or maybe not even 1 week, we were boot camping in Sweden, and then the major came pretty fast. Like I think we had like two weeks of prac before the major, maybe 3. And I remember I was like really stressed, like because like obviously like they communicated a lot in Swedish, right?
Sure.
And it was good for me to get familiar with it, but then like it was all new. Like I played with new guys, I had a new language to kind of get into, or not new, we learned it in school, but let's not talk about that. And,
I don't imagine you were the best student, if I had to guess, right?
Yeah, let's keep it at that.
Yeah, exactly, and, no problem.
Yeah, and then like the practice like before the major was like insane. Like I remember like any team I remember really clearly, like any team we played was like 25-5, you know, like everyone,
right?
Like just everyone, like it was just insane. Like everyone was hitting like everything.
Yeah, Exist actually told me this in his interview. He said the reason why NiP, even though, you know, it wasn't the #1 team, like everyone thought Fnatic, let me think, TSM, Envy, everyone thought these teams were better because they win the tournament. So he said in all the scrims, you guys were actually like wrecking people. So that's why you were all super confident.
Like we were like, it was insane, just insane. And then like, yeah, like I had to worry about like, okay, like now on prac, you know, I've never been a guy who puts a lot of like
too much like stock in what the results.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the practice results is always prac. You know, people play a bit different. They don't have the same focus, whatever. But still, it felt good. But then I was a bit worried about like how like when we go to the LAN environment, and then like the Swedish, you know, and then the communication and whatever.
Sure.
And I remember I was like super stressed, or not like stressed, but like in the like usually I'm pretty relaxed when I play, right? Like it's like I'm just there, you know, like doing my job. But I remember in that major I was like, you know, a little bit like shaky, like I didn't really trust myself in the way that I can make like whatever moves I want to make and whatever, you know. I was just like feeling whatever I saw that we needed as the team, and it went pretty good in a sense that. But I remember like when we get to the final, like suddenly all that like anxiety or whatever just disappeared, you know.
Sure.
And then unfortunately we lost that one, but it was a hell of a game.
Listen, it was a very close game, but I have a question for you, and I'm going to set you up here because I know you love to fucking complain about this exact thing, right? If I can, I'll link it in like the corner if people click it, right? You know that nowadays, if people see a clip where it's like, what the fuck, that bullet went through, they say like you got CSGO'd, like, you know, the game fucked you. People don't know, this literally happened to Allu in the final against Fnatic. It was one of the closest games ever. And literally, if you watch this clip, at least on the CSGO demo, like, you do just fire an AWP shot into someone on Dust 2. And it just for real, like the bullet just disappears into the matrix or something, right?
Yep. I remember it very clearly, and it was 14-14 round, and Fnatic force bot, and if they lose this round, they have 1.5 money, and we have all the money, and if we lose, we have all the we don't have any bank, you know.
Right.
So it was really important round for the game, but what can you do? Maybe it missed. I don't know. I watched it a couple of times, and
dude, you were watching it over and over again, and like linking me. You got to watch this. Look at this. Like, yeah, okay. It did look bad, I'll say.
To me, it looks like it hits, but you know, whatever. Like even if it hits, maybe we still lose the round.
That's true.
Even if we would win the round, maybe we then lose cash. You know, like you never know, right?
Sure. One of the things I want to ask was, because obviously that result was amazing, and if people remember, this was the time period where, like, basically the problem was if you played against Envious or Fnatic, you know, like these sort of like top teams in the tournaments, they used to beat you. They would just win the tournaments. And the problem with this NiP was it was really good, actually. It just didn't win tournaments. You know, it just didn't get the big trophies.
I think we placed second like 6 times during the year. I think.
Couldn't believe it.
Can be more, can be a little bit less. I'm not 100% sure, but the crazy thing is that like there was like few finals where we got blown out. Like I think there was Star Ladder, Star Series, whatever, like something like when we played Envious in the final, and then like they 16-5, 16-6 us or something. It was crazy. Like they were just in steroids, you know.
Yes.
And like I remember like when we were walking back to the hotel, and like I'm talking with Forrest, and Forrest is like, just, man, this is embarrassing, you know, this is like unacceptable. And I'm like, yeah, that's like what can we do, you know? Like they were just so much better at the time, or not better like in sense, but in that game they were like,
yes, they're just on fire.
Insane. Yeah. And like it's kind of like sometimes you like think back, you know, and also go back to like what could have been, you know.
Yes.
If like I don't believe in luck in the sense that like, but you know, sometimes you are a bit more lucky and sometimes you are a bit more unlucky.
Yes.
And I think if we had just a little bit more luck, like, and we could have won just one of these finals, then I think it could have changed the whole course of the ship. You know, like even though we did play and pretty good like the whole year, nevertheless. But like I think if we could have gotten that confidence of one victory or the booster, you know, I think we could have done a lot more.
Because I always think like that's something that a fan won't understand. Like they might think like, wow, it's still good to come second though. But it's like there's a great quote that Jose Mourinho, the football coach, has where he says like finals are for winning, not for playing. Because the idea is if you could make it to the final, you could probably win. Like it's only cool to, you know, come second if you really were like a fluke, you know, you're supposed to come 7th or something great. So if, like as I'm saying, like it sounds great to say, oh, I was in all these finals, but you want to get some trophies. You want to have that one moment, right?
Yeah. And like I remember like, for me, like personally, it was really hard to like mentally to lose all these finals, you know, because obviously you like somehow compare yourself to like, because there is Forrest, there is Get Right, there is Friberg, there is Exist, right, guys who won it all, done it all, you know, like everything.
Did it feel like it was your fault?
Yeah, like I did feel like that sometimes. Like even though like I don't think it was, but you know the feeling kind of is that, and it hit me really hard. Like that, man, this is my fault, you know. It kind of wrecked me like in a for a long time, you know. I wasn't like after NiP period, like even though I had like a really good time there, and I enjoyed the guys. Like we shared a lot of good memories together. But still, like after NiP as a CS player, I kind of wasn't the same anymore. You know, like mentally, I don't know. It was also like all the like after like before I joined NiP, right? I was just like a CS player who wanted to play CS and just like to compete to, and you know, and there wasn't a lot of like media attention or whatever.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and then you join NiP, suddenly you are this superstar, whatever, right? Yeah. And it was also hard for me, as I'm like, I'm not a guy who like enjoys the fame per se. Like I want to be in my own like circle, you know, and in peace, and all this, and then like the constant pressure of like winning, and we are not winning, but we should be winning. You know, we are NiP, we should win, but we are not winning. Then the traveling, like we played like shitloads of tournaments that year.
Sure.
Like I think we played. Let me count here.
I would guess like 15 or something. There's going to be a lot.
Yeah,
for sure.
It is even more. Like I think we played like 18 or 19 tournaments, and I joined in March.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like it's insane. Also, that was new for me. You know, I used to play like maybe 4-5 LANs a year.
Yes.
Suddenly, I'm traveling all the like every second week. Yeah, it was like rough in it, but it was still enjoyable. You know, it was an experience for sure.
Right, obviously there is the context in this team, as you said, that like it's not like you spoke Swedish, and obviously they were a Swedish team, right? Do you think like was that a part of the reason? Do you think that eventually they removed you from the team? Like, did you ever feel like it was unfair that removed? I always thought you were actually performing pretty well out of the players in the team. Should they have kept you longer?
It's also like like towards the end, like there was many times when the lineup was kind of shambling, you know. It was like friberg and Forrest was going to another direction. Get right, maybe joining Cloud9 or whatever.
That was right. There was all those rumors it was going to break up.
Yeah, there was like a lot of stuff, and then like JW was going to join NiP at some point, and what,
yes,
you know, and whatnot. Like there was all these things happening all the time, but like still towards the end of like I think it was in Cologne, ESL Cologne, 2015. So the second major of the year.
Yes.
When we lost to Virtus Pro in quarterfinals, I think.
Yeah.
And after that game, I think we kind of decided that, you know, this is it. Like this team is like done, you know. Like because like things weren't going smoothly. And then like we played the end of the year together, like kind of chill. We still made some good things happen there. And but yeah, towards communication, like I think that like towards the end, like maybe the last 2 or 3 months, like we mostly spoke Swedish in game, like only Swedish.
Do you sort of eventually click in? Does it start to make sense?
Yeah, like the communication was, I don't think it was a problem per se, but maybe it can be like it's hard for me to say, as like for me it can be okay, but for the other guys it was bad, you know. I don't know, but like after the Fragbite Masters, which was the last tournament, where we ironically placed second again,
sure.
and lost to Fnatic. I think we even beat Fnatic. Yeah, we did beat Fnatic in the upper bracket final, and then we lost the grand final, and we won the first map. Yeah, and then Yep. It was, man. Yeah, well, whatever. Like after that tournament, like we had a chat together with the team, and if I remember correctly, it was Friberg who I was talking to, and he said to me that, like, yo, man, like we've been thinking to go back to full Swedish lineup, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, yeah, it's like, but nothing is set in stone, whatever, you know, like maybe we play together, maybe not, you know, but nothing is set in stone. But then, like, I just said that, like, okay, like if you are thinking about it, then you should do it, you know.
Sure.
Like and then I like basically said that I'm gonna leave, like no matter, like I will not play anymore. And then I think I like even tweeted like instantly, or not like the next day
Okay.
tweeted that I'm not gonna play for NiP next year, you know. And then the management was in my, you know, it was unprofessional to do by me. Yeah, but well, my contract was ending anyway. But like in any case, like still, but yeah, I just had and I think they wanted to have Twist at that time, but he said no, and then a bunch of other players also said no. So I think maybe if I didn't leave, I still could have stayed.
Right.
But I don't think it would be like. Maybe it was better to call it quits.
Sure. But there's actually a detail, Allu, that most people won't even know around there. They won't remember this detail, which is, right, people maybe know the story that in early 2016, a guy called Simple, I'm sure everyone knows him now, went from Ukraine to North America to join Team Liquid, because at the time, I know the story of this because I was friends with NiKo, and basically, NiKo was like, right, we've got to try and get like a European player to come, because some of the NA players, like, they're all right, but no one's really that good. What people don't know, Allu, is it was supposed to be Allu before Simple joined that team. Simple was way down the list. Like they actually asked you played like an online qualifier, I think from Finland, but you didn't go and join in the end. So what was the reason? Because I mean, if you played the qualifier, I'm sure you're at least thinking about it, right?
Yeah, like I had like there was like after NiP, like eventually we made the second ENCE or whatever, or first ENCE or however you could call it. But during that time, like there was like Cloud9, I think, was one team that would have wanted me to go there, and then Liquid was one. Then there was Mouse Sports, and even like TSM also wanted to build something. And I think I even talked with like Jason Lake from Complexity also.
Oh, okay.
Like there was a lot of happenings, but then like Liquid seemed like the most, like if I would move to US, I think Liquid would be the bet, you know.
Yes.
That's what I thought in my head. So we played together, and it was cool. Like all the guys were really cool, and I enjoyed it. But like I guess I was like, I just didn't feel the moving to US, you know. And that's basically why I then said that, okay, fuck it.
Fair enough. Right, one thing I want to ask is this, right? Obviously, later in the story, ENCE became a really good team and was in like finals and stuff. But when you actually made this particular ENCE, like you just said there, listen to all the names that you're getting offers from. You're getting offers where you can get some of the best salary. You can only join a team that can win. I always said, like, the first time you came to this ENCE, where it was like the real company and it was established, you were kind of overqualified to be on that team. The people were your teammates. They haven't been and done these things. Why did you join this team? Why did you want to do this project?
I think after NiP and like being the, you know, the outsider, so to speak, like in a way, like even though we were friends, like I still like sometimes felt like I'm an outsider, you know, as we don't speak the same language normally.
Sure.
And so I just felt like it would be pretty great to, you know, play with like Finns again. And then like this like Finnish, I think it was team called Rockcut or whatever, like with Sunny, Juho, Xarte, maybe Stonde and someone I can't recall, but like they were doing like good job in the lower like tier 2 or whatever at that time. And then I thought that maybe if we get the like get a bunch of of these players and me in the mix, like maybe we can build something like really great, you know.
Sure.
And yeah, but yeah, that's the reasoning basically.
Right.
But
Obviously,
I just have to say, yeah, I just have to say like that, like there is like, like I don't know, like there was like last year December, right? When there was this crisis, and like there was some like things that, like some rumors that like Allu only plays for money, he only does the things for money, you know, and that's like, if people are like would know or like see my career as it is and the options and whatever and the money wise, like I've actually almost always picked the lesser money from the higher money, like from the options I've had at the time.
Sure.
So it's pretty crazy.
Oh, I'm sure if people could just see the salary in this ENCE team and then know how much, you know, Team Liquid or Cloud9 would have paid, yeah, or TSM or someone, yeah, it would have been, they probably 5 times more, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was substantial amount more. Let me say that.
So this is the question, though. When you made that project, like, look, ENCE did a very good job marketing it, because they sort of made it like you were the hero of Finnish Counter-Strike. Like, look, he came back from, he was in NiP and all these teams, but now he's back to make Finnish CS great again. And obviously the team did try for, like, you know, a better part of a year, but then you took the big offer, which at the time, interestingly, people will forget, when you joined FaZe Clan, they didn't have karrigan yet. They weren't actually a good team, but at the time it was an org where it was like, they had a whole bunch of good players, they had the big money, of course, but if people don't know, it was almost like some of those Real Madrid teams that like don't win, where it's like you got all these good players, but they don't necessarily know how to play together and stuff. What was this team like? Why choose this team? Why go to this squad?
Like when we, like, from the point, so 2016, start of the year to till like August, I think it was, when I joined FaZe. Like during that time, there was like, things were not going smoothly in ENCE, right? Like we were playing okay, decent, but then we like never made the next step, kinda.
Right.
And during that time, even there was like offers from Mouse Sports, at least, like in the middle of that, but I didn't want to take it, like, because I was really invested in this team. I really wanted to make it work. But like when we tried for so long, and then like nothing really changed. And then like FaZe came knocking. I just, you know, I had to take the chance there. Kinda, I thought that like this team is, you know, it's done. Kinda like we are not able to, like, the idea that I had that we can like kinda build something and like go up, you know, it was kinda broken by the, like, whatever happened, right? Like the results and whatnot, and that we didn't improve as fast or whatever. And then like FaZe as a team, like, was a team that like I watched before, like even like when they had the original FaZe lineup, or the Kingwin lineup, where was Scream, Michael Rain, Jakem, and Fox, right?
Yes. Yeah,
and
like
like they seemed like in a way like really puggy, mixy team, but there was a lot of potential there anyway. And then like afterwards, like they had AZ, Kiyoshima, Rain.
Yeah, that's it. It's still the other players.
JKM, and then Michael or Fox, whatever. And then they removed Fox or Michael, and then they asked me, and then I was like, yeah, let's go. But then like that team, like it wasn't really a team, you know. Like the team I joined, like before karrigan, it wasn't a team. It was just like 5 players, you know.
Sure.
playing together. Like we had some structure, some like whatever tactics, whatever, you know, but there wasn't really a good direction, like in-game direction. I don't know, it's like, it's hard to explain, but you kind of you need one guy who's like having the ropes, right? Like all the time.
Yes.
Like per se, like I, like, for example, myself, I've usually been the player who kind of takes the ropes at one point and then gives them back, you know, like kind of like a helping hand to the main guy or whatever, like a mid round caller, whatever. But like, and then Roban, like at one point I think he wanted to make me the in-game leader of FaZe, and I was like, man, I'm not ready to do that, you know. And then I think Jakem was our in-game leader at one point, like before karrigan, I mean. And then karrigan got kicked from TSM or Astralis, whatever it was, yeah. And then I instantly messaged him that, yo man, you wanna come here? Because we me and karrigan, we played together before also in mouse sports.
Sure.
So I had a pretty good understanding of him, and then he wanted to join, which was pretty good, and then we instantly kind of popped one step, one level higher as our team was good. You know, the players there were good. We just didn't have a good we lacked leadership, and we lacked direction, and karrigan bought that for sure.
Right, obviously, as you said, the lineup there, we're not talking about the later team, because obviously they replaced you with Guardian and all of Meister, where it was everyone was the biggest name in the world or whatever. This was actually a FaZe Clan team where, as you were saying, it kind of built karrigan's reputation again, because the team was all right and had good players, but they weren't making playoffs and stuff. And then suddenly, you know, they're in the mix, you can get the semi-finals, you can maybe potentially win a tournament. What was karrigan like as an in-game leader?
It's how to say... he's really, really good at mixing stuff up, you know, playing the strat before the strat and after the strat, you know, chaining.
Yes.
Kinda, and also understanding the group system, when you should go, when not, when to push, you know, whatever. That sort of things. Yeah, when he karrigan, I would say, he, I don't know if this is correct, but I would say, he's probably the best, the flow in-game leaders, if you can catch what I mean. When he has this, flow of his, trusting himself 100% and, just you know, when he's in the flow state of mind, he is, insanely good in-game leader. Just everything just goes correctly, you know.
Yeah.
And you can see he's done amazing in almost any team that he's played for. I would say the prime example would be the mouse sports team of last year.
Sure.
Or 2019. Yeah, and early 2020 when they won 6 tournaments in a row, and it was insane run by them.
Right. Obviously, later on, this team was already good, but again, it was like you said, you went up a level, but it wasn't winning yet. Obviously, the big move, I mean, it's understandable on paper, is you got NiKo, who was one of the best players in the world. Right? You just said earlier, actually, a couple of times you could have joined Mouse Spots, basically. And that was when it famously, everyone thought NiKo was trapped in the team and everyone else was too bad around him. Did you actually know NiKo back at this point in time? Did you know him when he came into FaZe Clan? Did you know, by the way, this is going to make us go to the top?
I mean, I knew him, of course. Who didn't? You know, the guy was and still is insane player. But I didn't know him per se, as a friend or whatever. But we discussed, I think it was NiKo, me, and some other guy from mouse sports that we hold the meeting when I was back in ENCE that maybe I should join or whatever. But then I didn't want to go yet. But I think what's crazy is that we didn't really I think we didn't really want to change lineup at the time. It was AZ wanted to leave to North.
Yes.
Which enabled us to get NiKo. And before that, I think we tried out Scream also. Because it wasn't sure that can we get NiKo. NiKo was the top of our list, but because it was uncertain if Mouse and FaZe can negotiate together, sure. We had alternatives, and we played actually 1 or 2 days with Scream before that, and I have to say that I was really impressed by Scream also. You know, because of I didn't know him at all as a person, but you always thought that he's, you know, this just the brainless machine who is just one tapping everyone, right? but this is not true. Like his communication, you know, in-game, like moving and everything was really on point. And I was like, wow, like if you don't get NiKo, it's like, it's okay, you know? Like if you can play with Scream, like he was, like during those 2 days, it was really, really nice to play with him.
Sure. Right, when this team broke through and you beat Astralis and you won the Star Series tournament, and then basically you were in all the finals. But famously you had a rivalry with the SK Gaming team, because this was the team where they had that streak where they won, like, I think it was like 5 out of 6 tournaments or something. Like, what? This was like a classic team, obviously. What was it like to play against this team? You know, Prime, Fallen, Cold Zero. What was that rivalry like for you?
Oh man, it was tough. Like SK. Like they had their very own way of playing, right? So, like they would, like, as a team, they would like wait you out until the like 15 seconds left in the round.
Yes.
And then they would make the decision, and then they would like kind of trust that they will get the trades, you know, and more often than not they would, because they kind of capitalize on like mistakes or, you know, shakiness, like when you just hold an angle for like 1 minute 20 seconds and then suddenly 3 Brazilians pop in your screen, you know, it's hard. It's hard.
Sure.
But yeah, it was like it was intense games, honestly. Like I think like the one that really like bums me, or like that has stayed with me for quite a bit of time, is like in ECS Season 3 finals.
Oh, this is the one where I thought your team should have won, mate.
Yeah. Well, should have, could have.
It was a very close game, put it that way.
Yeah. Like I think we won the first map, then we lost the second map, and then we played Train. It was the third map, and in Train, we lost the the T side 13-2 or 12-3. One of those, and then we have mounted this sick comeback that we are leading the game 15-14, right?
Yeah.
And then they have 0 money, or like half buy money, force buy money, and then they force buy and they just like Ivy rush, outside rush, and they win the round. We go to OT and they win the game. And it was like, oh man,
probably the worst way to lose, right?
Yeah, that's like when you really should have it, you know.
Yes.
It's like, well, it's not similar, but it's like losing the last round to like 1-on-4 or whatever. Like, you know,
sure,
that you really have a big advantage and you just let it slip. It's sad.
Right. There was obviously, right after this period, when your team, like, basically you almost couldn't fail to make the semis, if not the final. Like I say, you were battling against the SK team. You were even beating Astralis if you played them. But then we came to this major, PGL Krakow. Now, I will say, look, it's not like there's no extra excuses people can have. Like, for example, there were, like, PT problems at that tournament. There was a bunch of things. But this is one of the most shocking results of all time, Allu, because FaZe comes in as, like, maybe number 2 team in the world and then goes out without winning a map. Like, is that one of those scenarios? Like, was there actually anything, like, in the team that was going wrong? Did the boot camp go wrong? Was there any, like, sign that this was going to, like, you could have this shock result?
I think, like, I have to I think, like, it was, like, we were in ESL Cologne before that, right?
Yes.
It was Cologne and then almost directly to the major, and, like, the feeling inside the team was not really so great, like, for some reason. Like, there was, like, and then in, like, then PGL in the major, like, it just felt like, I think the first game we played against Big, and it felt pretty good, but we lost it, and then it started to go south, you know. And Big was also using this crouch jump bug. I don't know if you remember it.
Yes.
It was quite fucked up, but whatever. Like, I think, like, no matter who we would have played in that mental state in that team, we would have lost, you know. Like, any team from the whole tournament, we would just lose. Like, things were somehow so sour. And like, it was also like during, like, it was pretty, like, in personal level, like, there was a big crisis in my, like, with me and my girlfriend at the time during that tournament, which kind of like threw me off focus a lot from the tournament itself, which kind of sucks. But you know, not an excuse. We were terrible, and like we didn't deserve anything better than we got. You know, and then like I remember like me and NiKo talked about like maybe recruiting or like that we should get all of Meister to the team. Like before eventually I got removed, right?
Yes.
But like it was like the plan was kind of to get all of and then like stay as it is, but then like they also wanted Guardian, and I think it was Karrigan actually who insisted that we have to get Guardian, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure, but then I got removed, and then like I had a little bit of break, and then I joined OpTic, right? And FaZe went to like a really good streak, right? Like they were like insanely good for that period, like for 4 or 5 months, 6 months, maybe.
By the way, on that move though, like listen, again, on paper, if someone says like they changed out allu for Guardian, like a fan's going to be like, well, Guardian's like one of the best AWPers ever. Did it feel bullshit though? Like, did you actually think like I'm as good as him, or I can stay in this team, or could we still be really good? Like, was it unfair to you?
Well, not unfair. Like, obviously, if you get removed, right? I don't know if it's ever unfair, like in the sense that it happens, you know.
Okay.
But like as I said before, like that I started to kind of treat CSGO a bit more professional and like more mature, like happened like after, and it wasn't like that in FaZe either. Like there was like my prioritizing wasn't really straight, like considering that you want to play CS and you want to succeed, right? You want to win. And I had a lot of interest in other stuff, and like CS wasn't my priority and practice, and you know. So I think this played a major part of that removal. Like, and if I even remember correctly, like might be I'm wrong, but Guardian also, like on paper at least, like obviously Guardian is Guardian, right? One of the greatest AWPers ever to play, but like during that time, like I think he wasn't performing well.
He was in a little bit of a slump, I think.
Yeah. So like, I think like if like I obviously think like that if I had stayed, we could have achieved the same.
Sure.
But never know. But that's just how I think, and it can be true or not. But to say that was it unfair to get removed? I don't think so. Like I think it was actually quite fair, and it was a good like wake up call for myself, like as a person, also as a professional. I think it really like helped me in a way to get my like what do you want to do in life, you know?
Right.
That kind of moment.
Yeah. I mean, if people have been listening to the interview so far, you kind of had the same answer in all the times you get removed or the team has to change. You seem to have like a very matter-of-fact approach to it, which is like, it almost sounds like the logic is, look, it doesn't matter if actually you're good still or you're better than the other person. If the other players in the team say, look, we're going to change this person, we're not going to play with you anymore, you kind of have to accept it, right? There's not really any point going, but you should stay with me.
Yeah, like I've never like, I don't really understand that. Like obviously, like when I get removed from FaZe, also like because of this girlfriend drama that happened in my personal life, kind of my whole life was kind of in shambles, so to say. Okay. So a lot of things crumbled at the same time, but like it did hurt me like a lot. Like I was really down because like I really wanted to play there, and I started to realize like what a fool I've been, you know, whatever.
Sure.
Whatever, and like, but still like. To like hold a grudge or whatever to like because you get removed, it's like I don't really see the point, you know, because like it is a job after all. Like sometimes you get fired, and usually you get fired because of you don't do your job or whatever well enough, you know. Whatever the reason is, like I think it's better just to accept it, you don't have to agree with it, but just accept it and move forward, right?
Yes. When you went into this OpTic team, this just looks like whoever made this team didn't bother learning the lessons of what FaZe Clan did, because it's like a bunch of good players, but again, no real in-game leader. And again, the players are just from like every country in the universe. Like, there's no logic to the team. It's like, I'll ask the question, but like, what went wrong with this team?
I think there was like few. This is obviously my own opinion, but
Yeah.
like few things that went bad is that, like, first of all, like I think the team, like I'm a pet or the Chet Singh, so our coach at the time, like he was a really good like analytical coach in the sense that he could set up game plans and whatever. He knew
Yes.
like everything.
He's watching all the demos, I remember.
Yeah, like just like and like with him in the team, like you don't really like necessarily need a like huge, like I think there wasn't even any in-game leaders, you know, available
Right.
at that time. And then like we discussed with Mixwell, Friberg, Magisk, and then like we had like 4 players, but we wanted to have 1 more player, and then like NAF didn't wanna move to Europe, but like we weren't going to move to Europe, and then like we brought in HS, right, this Estonian guy.
Okay.
And then like everything like went pretty smoothly at the start, but then like after 1 or 2 weeks already, like Friberg and our coach and Magisk, I think they wanted to remove HS, and I said like, yeah, okay, like he's been not playing so great, but we just made this lineup, so maybe we should give him like, you know, time, like fair time. And then like I think that was one of the main issues, in the sense like I don't know if we could have ever become a like real contender or top team, but like still like if we had NAF instead of HS, I think we could have placed a lot better, or like played a lot better.
Sure.
And then like I think we even peaked like 9th in the world rankings or whatever, even though like our team was like a bunch of, you know, like we built it from scratch, right?
Yes.
So in that sense, like if you put that in the context, it was still like okayish results. What we did, obviously, like we failed in the minor. I think we lost to, I can't remember who we lost to, someone. But we had like decent runs in EPL and somewhere else, if I remember correctly. I am
Okay.
Oakland maybe. Like not like
maybe a
semi-final
playoff
runs,
run or
but like
something. Yeah,
like
exactly.
playoff like
Yeah.
5 to 6 place or whatever. So it's like decent. Like
Sure.
nothing too good, nothing to be proud of, but still, like if you think about it, like as I said, like how that team was, like bunch of different players, no one have ever played together before. We just put it in the, you know, in the bag, shake it a bit. We have a team,
Sure.
and then like we still like did do like decent. So it wasn't all bad, honestly.
What about this then? In this team, obviously, you played with Friberg again, who was with you at NiP. And in all the stories when you were talking about NiP, it's always Friberg. He's the one coming to ask you to join the team, and he's the one like, listen, bro, it might not work out, might have to kick you. Was Friberg like? Did you have a friendship with him? Did you have connect with him in some way?
I consider us friends, and I think he would say the same. Like, but this time around, it was me who asked Friberg. Though.
Ah, right.
But yeah, like as I said before, like all the NiP dudes or the old NiP dudes, like I consider us friends, and like we share some sort of connection for sure.
If people don't know, when you came back to do ENCE again, it was basically almost a totally different team than the one that you were in before. It wasn't all like old players. It wasn't actually the people who in early CSGO were like best Finnish players, but kind of like never made it to the top level. A lot of them actually retired around this time. But when you got back to this other team, in theory, this is actually like a team people would expect even less from. It's all unknown players. It's players who only played in the Finnish scene. They've been in teams like Havu and people that no one even fucking knows. So when you came back to this squad, did you have any expectations, like what it should be able to do, or what you're coming back to ENCE to try and do?
Like the end of 2017, right? I think ECS Season 4 was our last event. And then, like, obviously there was like a lot of like things again in the team that we should change this and I don't want to play whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like what are we going to do? Then Magis joins to Astralis, right?
Yes.
And then like that was like for me like, okay, like if he goes like as he should go, like
you got to take that offer.
Like the team is kind of not there because Magis was like really good, you know, like really a pillar of the team, like skill wise, I would say. And then like OpTic also wanted to do something like weird, like they wanted to relocate the whole team to Dallas, I think. And then they were like saying to me that, okay, are you coming to live in Dallas or not? You know, something along these lines, you know, something really blunt. I'm like, yeah, okay, like I can come, but who do I play with? And then they're like, yeah, we don't know yet, but we are talking to these players, but you have to commit now. Or what? Like something like this. I'm like
with literally zero players, it was just going to be you and then they're going to add
it was like, maybe there was like, I don't know if there was friberg in the mix. Maybe there was Stanislaw, something like I can't remember, but it was like, you know, the lineup was 100% not set. There was nothing certain, nothing like, you know, and then I'm like, yeah, well, if that's the case, I'll pass, you know. I'm not gonna commit myself to moving to a different country, to a different continent, to play with, you know, a team I don't even know. You know, that's not something I will do. Sure. Like no matter, like again, the money was great or would have been great, but I didn't feel it, you know.
Yes.
And then after that, like we agreed with OpTic to terminate the contract because it didn't really make sense. And then after that, I kept like a little bit of break again, just to like kind of think about CS. You know what you want to do, kind of like do you really want to play? Have you achieved things that you want from your career? Whatever. Do you think that you've been, you know, being the best version of yourself? Whatever, you know, like self-reflection time. Hardcore. And then like I'm like, yeah, I do want to play. Where can I play? Whatever. And then like there was like, obviously I knew Sergey, right? Like he was like from like knew him even before. Like, or I didn't know him, but I like was aware of him. Like I like to like keep like kind of check on like future, like, or like a, you know, Finnish players that attract. Like I like to, you know, follow them a bit. So I knew about Sergey, then I knew about Aleksi B. Then I always thought that X7 was like could play in a better team than like he played, you know. Like I kind of felt that he's stuck in the mix of the like the iGame or whatever team, like the core that they had. Like they played together like 3-4 years or whatever. So I thought that he definitely can play in a higher level if he just gets a better chance, you know, to play.
Okay.
And then like Aleksi B really wanted to bring Ariel, and Ariel was a player I didn't know much about myself. Like he was quite old also, like in sense that
sure,
he never really popped out before, but like he really vouched for him. So then I discussed with Sergey, Then I discussed with Aleksi B, and then like I get in touch with X7, and then like there was Ariel. Ariel needed some, like there was some buyout, whatever. And then I think like also before that, like even like before that, like there was also one thing that people probably don't know is that like before we made this ENCE lineup, like the good ENCE lineup, if we can say, was that like Aleksi B was actually considering joining Sprout before that. Like it was like he had an offer from Sprout, and then we had this team that we wanted to create together, right?
Sure.
And like I remember saying to him like, okay, you can, like you can go to Sprout, it's fine, you probably get paid more, but like in this team there is like a lot better potential, you know.
Okay.
Like there's a lot better potential. So, and I would advise you to rather play with us. Like, and I wouldn't say this to you if I didn't really believe in it, you know. And
Sure.
well, fortunately, he decided to play with us then, and then we started the hard work.
This video was kindly supported by Lager15, Matt Pugnacio Ricula, Scapperin, Travis Goff, Zach Smid, Adam Oaks, Alexander Rao, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Chris, Hades, J-Dubs, Jensen Go, John Shelton, Joseph Ginsberg, Kovacevic, Tobias Bernasconi, Zumba, Zyrathenia, and as always, a special thanks goes out to both Jerky's Minion and DZL. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Would you like to ask a question for my monthly AMA? Want teasers for upcoming content or interview guests have I done, etc.? Do you want to take part in one of those donated discussions? Well, if you want any of the above and previously mentioned, put your money where your mouth is and join the Screwmalati today at the description box link to Patreon.